Sydney Sweeney talks about how she just can't seem to make ends meet, and that is a problem.
She said, I barely earn enough to survive.
She does.
How much is she earning? Does it say in this article?
Enough to have
enough to
have a very big mansion.
Los Angeles.
Want to go ahead and lead this one?
Well, some people make stupid financial decisions.
So she did an interview with The Hollywood Reporter that begins in the setting of a rooftop bar at a Manhattan hotel that they stress is very modest. Mm-hmm. And then in the middle of it, she gets all of her designer clothing for their photo shoot shipped to the front desk. Mm-hmm. And she talks about how hard it is to make it in Hollywood. And I appreciate part of this interview that talks about humble beginnings. She comes from a very lower middle class upbringing. And
wow,
why was that one so long? Thank you. And she has been acting since she was 14 years old, I believe, and she's 24 now. Side note, I think it's weird that all of the characters in Euphoria are like way older than the characters they play.
How old is Sydney Sweeney?
She's 24.
Okay.
So she also mentioned that she just bought her first home. It's a $3 million mansion in LA.
But she can't make ends meet.
And she's talking about how she can't make ends meet because if she wanted to take a 6-month sabbatical from acting, she wouldn't be able to afford it.
How many episodes were in season 1 of Euphoria?
I didn't watch Euphoria. I'm not sure.
So the idea here is like I laugh at the idea of like middle class people being like, yes, that would be terrible if I wasn't able to just take 6 months off.
She starts complaining about how people are driving by her house and taking pictures of it, and paparazzi are waiting outside because she doesn't live in a gated community.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna defend her here. I think everything she's saying is completely legitimate.
Okay.
So she made about $200,000 off of season 1 of Euphoria, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think they upped her to $350,000 for season 2. So this is a couple years of what? No. She was making $25,000 per episode for season 1. A lot of that is going to be cut out of there for taxes, right? Mm-hmm. So she's actually going to be making not a massive wage.
Well,
we're talking like 100,000 something.
But then it's what you were saying earlier. She's living beyond her means.
Her publicist gets paid.
Yep.
Now she has a mortgage that gets paid.
Right.
She's happened to be around people that are going to already be. A lot of people in Hollywood are already people that are friends, families, whatnot, with celebrities. They're going to have a lot of financial backing. They're going to have, and she's going to try to be keeping up with this lifestyle of the people around her to try to stay within the clique, because if you're out of the clique, you're not getting jobs anymore. So she'd absolutely be living barely enough to survive.
Everything's relative
within that world.
Right,
She also mentioned that the network doesn't pay for her to be doing press for the show.
That's
she has to pay for all her own hair, makeup, travel, etc.
That's
security. This is a huge thing I realized when I kind of blew up on the internet, especially like every video I'd post would get like massive views when I was relevant back in the day. Like 2016, 2017, I was like, oh my gosh, I make no money because I didn't really know how to make money on YouTube then. And I have no security. Yeah. I can't afford security. I'm making like nothing. And I have people showing up at my house, leaving notes on my freaking door, stalking me, wanting to kill me. Like this is, there's this really weird disconnect where like being famous used to be connected with this whole industry behind you where, you would absolutely have like 7 security guards. They'd set everything up where you went. Now you've got famous people that have none of the institution behind them, and they're just floundering and don't know what to do. And I think this is a good example.
Here's my issue. Like, she didn't have to buy a $3 million mansion.
No, she didn't.
She could have gotten something much smaller in a gated community.
But the people around her are all doing that, so she's like just mentally like skewed, right?
Is that part of her needing to keep up appearances to stay part of the in-group?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and also they point out, like, because this is streaming and the dynamics of pay in relation to streaming are different than they used to be on network TV. There will be no residuals. There will be no royalties for anything like this. You're getting a flat rate and then nothing
she's
else.
Also a really big name right now because of Euphoria. And yes, she's taking advantage of that. She said she takes brand deals because she has to. She has one with Armani. She has one with Miu Miu.
I have to take this brand deal with Armani, she says.
No, like,
oh my gosh.
You, right?
I'm not crying for her. I don't feel bad. She's doing fine, obviously. But like,
there are valid
it's just good to consider like how she could get to that position where, despite making a good amount of money, she's feeling that way.
Publicist, lawyer, manager, all of them taking a cut along the way. The government takes 40%
She said she pays her
publicist
more than her mortgage monthly.
So,
so she would genuinely be making very little money if... Unless we'd have to consider the brand deals and stuff because she'd be making good money on those.
Yeah, and then the agents also secure the brand deals for her too.
Well, if she buys a home for $3 million and the mortgage is like whatever her down payment on that was, there must be some indication in her bank statements that she has enough that they believe could cover. That she'll be able to make those payments on a monthly basis, right? Like you can't even get an apartment anymore without making 3 times what your monthly rent is.
So what she means by I earn barely enough to survive is not I earn barely enough to survive. I earn barely enough to survive at a celebrity lifestyle.
To keep up.
In this insulated culture.
Yeah. You look at Hollywood where like the big name celebrities live in these large mansions and the people who they work with every day live in the slums of those cities because they're paid so little in relation to what it costs to live there. Like
I'll never forget going to I did some filming in LA for my movie Borderless, and we actually hired the room that they filmed Batman in and had the car come up with all the lights above. We used that studio, and we went to go buy outfits for the shoot, and we went to All Saints, bought like a $300 shirt or something, and the guy told us, hey, by the way, like keep the tags on this way for when you return it. And we're like, what are you talking about? Like returning it? And he's like, oh, I just assumed you were like literally every other person that's filming projects here. They're like, these people are all like portraying a certain, they go out to parties wearing clubs, tucking the tags in. They're all trying to portray that lifestyle in LA, and it's all fake.
Remember when I said that you don't know why you understand what fake is, but you always can spot it? Like that's what it is, right? Like, and maybe that's why we as like as the plebs of society take such disdain on that culture, because like you know that it's fake. They're telling you it's not. You both know that it is, and you can't prove it or show it, but you know that that's what the reality of the situation is. But then they push it on the world and try to portray Hollywood values as the values of the rest of this country, which they inherently are not. Right?
There was something she said in this interview I found more sympathetic. She, when asked about her relationship status, said, I want to have a family. I've always wanted to be a young mom, and I'm worried about how this industry puts stigmas on young women who have children and looks at them in a different light. I was worried that if I didn't work, there's no money and no support for kids I would have.
Well, look at the conversations we've been having about all the celebrities in Hollywood choosing surrogacy because they don't want to take 6 months or 9 months out of their life and not be able to work.
But think about how much it costs to have a surrogate.
Have you ever seen the movie The Island?
No.
With Scarlett Johansson?
No, that's Shutter Island.
Yeah, that's right.
You've never seen The Island?
No.
Oh, it's such a good movie. How have you guys, this is the Culture Podcast. Honestly, you're all fired.
That's the thing. That thing is, though, if you haven't seen every single thing ever, everyone says that like you don't
understand anything.
You don't get it.
Morons. No, it's basically they created this like separate society in the middle of I think it's like in the desert or the ocean or something. It's like, and they've cloned all of these celebrities and rich people, and their clones live in this little, they think this is the world, this little society they live in. They have little everyday parties, bars, everything, but they don't realize that they exist for the sole purpose of like organ harvesting and stuff. So like when a celebrity gets in a car crash, suddenly they pretend one of the people on the island has won the lottery and gets to go to an island, but really they're taking them and taking their organs. And they do that for pregnancy. So all of these women will get pregnant and then the babies just disappear, but it's because the celebrities need one back in LA.
It's not too far off from reality.
Yeah.
We've talked about
just
celebrity
a Uyghur
surrogacy
concentration
before
camp
on the show.
It's a Michael Bay film, by the way.
Oh, I love it already. I love
He's a big Michael Bay.
I love bad movies that
this looks really good.
It's actually a really good movie.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It looks really good.
There was another part of this that pissed me off, to be honest.
Was it the grandparents quote?
Well, that's
Why
another
do you end
level
on
of
that
effed
quote?
up.
That's a whole nother thing.
Brett had to include that because he's ghoulish.
I am
ghoulish.
ghoulish.
They talked about her role on White Lotus, where the whole cast was living at this resort to film. And there were no guests at the resort other than them because of COVID. It was a COVID protocol that they were all isolated. And it was literally that movie, The Bubble, that we watched in real time. Yeah. It really happened with this. And the director of White Lotus recalled what it was like when that protocol stopped and they started welcoming guests back into the resort. He said he described the introduction of the real world into the cast and crew's COVID bubble as almost traumatic, but ultimately powerful in the way it served the narrative. Ugh. Suddenly, we're watching employees, our family, get bossed around. It added to the meta feeling of the show reflecting life.
I cannot stand...
It was trauma.
I cannot stand self-absorbed people with, like, basic literary skills being able to, like... vocalize something very stupid and make it sound halfway like intelligent.
Like if you can do a complete sentence,
I was like, we have enabled so much mental illness by just giving people the ability to write. And
this is what I'm saying. Mass literacy is a problem. I've been saying this since day one.
Like there's like a lot of the things
actually
you read,
true,
right?
True. I never even thought about that.
Can we go back and just burn the printing press?
A lot of the
people
things
that shouldn't be able to write.
A lot of the things that we read from people who clearly have problems are just being the only reason they're taken serious because they're able to formulate a halfway decent turn of phrase to point it out, and you're just like, that doesn't make it any less stupid, but because you're able to say it in a halfway cogent manner, it's a problem.
Yeah, no one has any skills to read and write anymore, and that's just a sign of the schools and how they fail kids. And also, this Sydney Sweeney story is about financial illiteracy. Like, this is just another case. Like, I never learned anything about keeping a checkbook or
Do you think that's
making
it?
money.
Because the interview is written in such a way that
means.
They frame her as a very business savvy woman,
No,
and
I'm
not so
that.
sure.
I think they have to do
she's
that.
doing her publicist is doing that for her, but
like,
she doesn't know what she's doing because she's a first generation celebrity.
But I think Lauren's right in saying that she's doing what she has to do to keep up with the culture that she's surrounded by.
And that's a problem too.
And that's a problem.
That's another problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love blue collar actors who do television because they tend to be more for the industry, more down to earth. A lot of them, like I'm a serial IMDb'er. Like whenever I'm watching a show, I look at everyone's IMDb. Like a lot of them have been married for 20
You're that guy.
I'm that guy. They've been married for 20 years. They've got kids. They're fairly
It's a very
normal.
incestuous industry, though.
Once you start going down the rabbit hole of like, I pointed out to somebody the other day, they're like, Bryce Dallas Howard, such a great director. I'm like, it's Ron Howard's daughter.
Yeah.
She doesn't get that opportunity without being Ron Howard's daughter. That just doesn't happen. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's, in an industry where there isn't like strong benchmark for what's good other than money, right? Like, you get a lot of leeway, but just because of the generality of the art, right? Like, who's to tell them that performance is bad, right?
Yeah,
they don't care about the
subjective.
They don't
none
care
of it is
about the
good or
money
bad.
anymore. They don't care about the money anymore. That's what it seems like in Hollywood. Like most of the blockbusters that they're making today seem to be very poorly done in the way that they're not making hundreds of millions. Like this is the first quarter in a long time. This summer blockbuster season is the first one we've had since pre-19 before COVID, where things are bouncing back, but they're not as good as they used to be because people see through it because the art isn't as good. So. If it's all subjective and the money doesn't matter, you just hire whoever the hell you want. It doesn't matter.
Top Gun was pretty damn good.
Yes, I have sung the praises of Top Gun endlessly.
Yeah,
and
really good.
Dane finally saw it, said he loved it.
You're basically a Scientologist at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's they call me a Scientologist apologist, a Scientology apologist because I like Tom Cruise in movies.
Yeah, well, you are. So, another aspect of this interview I wanted to touch upon is her evaluating her status as like a rising sex symbol, which I totally disagree with. Because appearing naked on screen does not make you a sex symbol. If anything, that takes away all of the mystery that is essential to being a sex symbol. So she said, people forget that I'm playing a character. They think, oh, she gets naked on screen, she's a sex symbol. Referring to her nude scenes in Euphoria. She said, I can't get past that. I have no problems with those scenes and I won't stop doing them, but I wish there was an easier way to have an open conversation about what we're assuming about actors in the industry.
That's impossible because of the way discourse happens.
She wants nuance in an industry that doesn't allow for it. And honestly, this is just porn. Like, Euphoria is a very pornified series from what I have heard about it. I don't seek out that type of content, but it's blurring the lines between mainstream entertainment and pornography in a way that's like very dangerous in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just look at what
it doesn't make her a
said.
sex symbol.
Yeah.
It makes her a sellout.
Yeah, it's weird. I haven't watched it, but it seems weird to watch high school kids doing
Whoever
what I've heard
adults
about.
That's what when I was watching the show, I was like, I feel do I need to like
weird.
Yeah,
walk
they're
out of
all-
the room? Because
they're
this
all in
feels
their
like
mid-20s.
legal child porn or something. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's weird.
In the porn industry, they're not allowed to fake portray
Yeah,
children.
that's
But
what I keep
somehow
thinking.
Hollywood is allowed to do that.
What the
Because,
hell? Like, we need legislation on this.
Like,
I don't know what's
It
going
was
on.
weird.
like, all the porn stars, like, why do they get to do it and we
and
don't?
there's like proper like pedophile relationships in the show too that they
Really?
fully depict. Yeah, like they've got
Yeah.
the one of the trans star. It's like episode 2 that goes to go hook up with like an older dude and is like a trans
Disgusting.
child.
Good God.
And
literally
they
disgusting.
show the whole thing, and I'm like, I'm like one of those people that's like, fast forward.
Yeah. For me, I'm done fast forwarding. It's just like utter trash. Because what's the value to the story in showing all of that?
I think
you can tell more by not showing it.
To me, watching the show has been a really interesting, eye-opening experience to like obviously it's like an extremely exaggerated version of like Gen Z perspectives on the world, but it's been really interesting to view like that hopelessness, that, you know, acquiescing to drugs, sex, and confusion, and watch that portrayed in a show that's quite aesthetically pleasing. The music, all of that is really well done, and it really kind of opens your mind to just the hopelessness of Gen Z in a lot of ways. It's interesting.
I can appreciate that point, but also it's not accurate to Gen Z's actual lifestyle habits.
It's
we
like extremely
are
exaggerated.
like the
for
least
sure.
partying, least hooking up generation
Yeah.
in a while
Interesting.
now.
Isn't that so
So
interesting?
I think this is
All
more
the-
propaganda to encourage that behavior than it is trying to portray the reality.
All the Gen Z guys are like, where the hell is this stuff happening? It's not happening to me.
Where are all the hot girls that dress like prostitutes in my high school?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that I was like on a train the other day, and they had a Bible study youth camp coming on the train, and they were like a bunch of 16-year-olds. I remember a bunch of kids when I was younger would go do this like Bible study youth camp too, and they're like 15, 16, all the girls come on, and they're all wearing these like shorts that they've got rolled up at the top that are, you can see their asses. I'm sitting there like, is this even legal? There's like 40 15-year-olds all with their asses out from a Bible camp. So I do believe that they are dressing like that at that age.
Wow.
Yeah.
I felt like such like a boomer. I was sitting
That's
there
crazy.
like getting ready, like wave my
Well, what I mean
walking
by
stick.
dressing
Pull your
like
pants up.
Parents send you to Bible camp, but don't check what you look like before you leave for the Bible camp?
Well, I think, so I went to a private school when I was much younger, and then it became absolutely unaffordable. But the girls used to go they'd go to school with their like skirts down past their knees or whatever. Then they'd all go in the washroom and roll the skirts up and like tuck their shirts over it, and they'd have them like with their asses hanging out. So you can like completely
Dude.
do
Can adjust.
that after. You
Yeah.
can adjust. And I think that's what they're doing. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Crazy.
I know that like the lack of modesty, that would be accurate, but I'm talking about the exaggerated costumey way that these girls dress in
Yeah.
Euphoria.
The
Where does
is
it-
not
the
accurate
drugs,
at all.
the- yeah,
it's
for sure.
very pornified.
Where does it take place?
I'm not sure.
the
I wonder if that
Must be
has
just
any
like
bearing
Southern
on how
California.
crazy. Yeah,
You-
that makes sense.
Lauren's right about the aesthetic of the show. Like I said, I was trying to explain like what I meant by like hyper. It's like it's very unrealistic, and it's like a hyper objectified in every notion. Like the visuals are very over the top. The way people are dressed is very over the top. The subject matter
The
is over the top.
emotions are over
the
the
emotions
top.
are over the top because
Yeah.
that is a choice by the director to direct the actors to.
I don't
behave
like
that
this director,
way.
though,
So
just
it's
on
just
principle.
it becomes a matter of like we're talking morality and like whether this is like good for society, but they're doing it objectively as an artistic choice.
I just think it's a bad one.
Yes.
And one that actively coarsens the culture.
That leads Sydney Sweeney's grandparents to say really creepy
Can
stuff.
we talk about this shit?
I need to.
Why did they say
when I
this?
heard this, I was like, "This is fake, right? Like it's fake." Okay, so Sydney Sweeney's grandparents complimented her nude scenes in Euphoria because that's because cultural.
They said she
rot.
has the best tits in Hollywood.
No. Why?
What? That's what I'm saying. Why?
Now, I haven't watched
Grandma!
Euphoria, but from what I hear, there are scenes where she is like in like a sex scene with multiple men.
Yeah, and
Is that
she's
the
like getting
case?
choked and stuff.
Literally,
it's not good.
her grandparents who
It's not good.
Not good.
her grandparents
Graham.
watched this shit and then commented on it in a positive
So-
light.
they're
I
so
don't
proud.
understand.
So proud.
Pops, what's up here? Graham.
Like that's what makes it hard for me to
Like, do you think-
fully believe that she came from these humble beginnings and this normal upbringing. That is not normal. And I also read in this interview that her parents dropped everything and
Yeah.
got rid of everything to put her into acting when she was like
Ooh, that's
13,
weird.
14.
Sounds like a cult.
Any
Threw
good
everything
parents
away for her.
I think the grandparents like called her after those episodes and was like, "Wow, your scenes in the episode episodes tonight were great, and she's like, I didn't need to hear that,
It's
Grams.
exploitative.
Great tits, Sydney.
This is why I think it's like something you get
Good job.
groomed into doing.
Totally. That's
Yeah, it's
really
gross.
if the parents dropped everything to get them into
Yeah.
Hollywood, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
I remember like I think every kid has that moment where they're like, oh, they've got like a tryout going on for this like Disney thing. Can I go do it?
Thank you.
I remember they did that one, and I asked my parents when I was really little, and they were like, absolutely freaking not.
Dude.
Absolutely not.
I did that too. I asked and I got a yes, and I did the audition and I made it through, but my parents were like, nope, never mind. Because
Yeah, saved
like
you
that's
from getting
how
groomed.
That's how they entrap you.
Now even normies know about how how awful Hollywood
Hollywood
is.
is,
Like
yeah.
like the average person. Like sometimes you get the people who like when they get into like demonic and they start talking in like that language. I'm like, I get it. You're right.
It doesn't
but-
even have to be a conspiracy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Too
I don't need
foolishly
to hear
evil,
about
but
adrenochrome.
real.
I don't need to hear about like the weird eyes wide shut parties. Just they're evil.
What we
They're
know
bad.
is enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
don't need-
totally would have made it in Hollywood too. You got like those crazy unique eyes. You would have been sorted.
Yeah, well, I'm here now.
And then you could have been
Now I'm a
treated to your-
podcaster.
to your grandparents saying, "Hey, nice scene in that show Euphoria." That's no thank you.
Yeah, nope.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.